This is the Mad Scientist Memo. The Mad Scientist Memo. Here we go.
Welcome back to the Mad Scientist Memo.
I'm your co-host Zahra.
And I'm Shreya.
What are we talking about today, Shreya? We're going back to 7th grade.
We're going back to 7th standard, where the Percy Jackson Rick Riordan craze has just hit the class.
We're talking about mythical creatures today. We're going to be tapping into a few Greek mythology characters and
some others.
Yeah, and we're going to again find clinical correlates to all of their conditions.
Right.
Like we usually do.
So why don't you take us there?
Okay, starting strong at number 1. Let's talk about werewolves. Okay. Werewolves. So did you know there's something called congenital hypertrichosis, where there's basically just a reactivation of genes that causes excessive hair growth.
Okay.
So do you know how like early humans had excessive hair because they had lesser means to warm their body and they just had excessive hair growth. So this happens because of a mutation that causes that doesn't allow the shutdown of these genes that in our ancestors used to cause excessive hair growth.
All right.
So they this happens when the baby is still in the womb, and this condition is called hypertrichosis, and they have excessive hair growth. This is different from another condition called as hirsutism, which is basically excessive hair growth dependent on hormones. Like in females, due to excess androgens, they have hair growing in typically areas that men have hair in, like the chest and mustaches and stuff like that. Obviously, but this is different of hormones. Like in hypertrichosis, it's not dependent on hormones. It's just a gene mutation because of which there's excessive hair growth.
Okay, so when we say the werewolf syndrome, we're referring to hypertrichosis, right?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So you know what I have heard, that the idea of transforming this man into a beast, it could be described as the culmination of two syndromes or two disorders, that is hypertrichosis and lycanthropy.
Okay, take us through it.
So lycanthropy, or rather clinical lycanthropy, the psychological or the psychosis behind this is that it's a rare psychiatric syndrome where the patient holds this sort of delusional belief that they can transform or that they have transformed into an animal. So in this experience, it might include them hallucinating the idea of growing fur or claws or paws. They might even like sometimes grunt or walk on all fours and things like that. So
that's exactly what happens in a werewolf.
Right. That is quite literally the psychological aspect of it, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, moving ahead. Let's go to Medusa or Gorgon. So Medusa is the name of a gorgon. There's a bit of a backstory to that, but I think Medusa herself is very popular. We know her serpentine hair and the fact that anybody she looks at directly turns to stone.
Yes.
And you know the best disease that links to this is a condition known as fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, FOP.
FOP.
In which it's a condition where soft tissues progressively ossify.
Right.
Soft tissues like your muscles and it's precipitated by injuries or surgeries and that kind of trauma to your body. So the more trauma, the more surgery that like happens, it precipitates more ossification.
Right.
And
so medicine quite literally calls this the stone man syndrome, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it very much like what happens to anybody Medusa looks at. And people who have FOP, they become like immobilized statues gradually, just like Medusa's victims, and they die eventually from a chest that can no longer expand. So they're not able to breathe.
Okay.
And they die because of that. Because so it's almost like they're trapped inside the second skeleton.
That's
like
really
their
nice
body
way
is
to
trapped
put it.
inside a second skeleton. And the mutation that happens here is a gain of function mutation.
Okay.
So it's a gain function to ossify soft tissues.
All right.
Yes.
That makes sense. Coming to the next one.
The next one is Cyclops. There was a Cyclops in Percy Jackson. Tyson, I think.
I think so too.
Yes. Oh my God, Tyson.
Yes.
Okay,
So what exactly is a cyclops? Like physically, we can characterize it by like a single eye.
that's
in
the most
center.
important characteristic of a cyclope, is that they have only one eye in the center of their face.
Right.
Now, this can be caused due to a condition known as holoprosencephaly,
Yes.
and cyclopia is the most severe form of holoprosencephaly. Now, let me just quickly run you through what holoprosencephaly is.
Okay.
It's when obviously it's a congenital condition where your forebrain fails to divide properly. And in cyclopia, it manifests as a single eye and almost no nose.
Okay. So the way that it works in general normal situations is that the forebrain splits into two distinct hemispheres, right?
Okay.
The left and the right.
Hmm.
And this division is going to sort of dictate the structure of the face.
Hmm.
It forms like the map of the face, if that's accurate.
Yes.
But like you said, in this condition, it does not split. So the face doesn't split. And again, in the most severe form, the eyes don't separate.
So you end up with a almost cyclops like condition.
Yeah.
Which is now I was reading something really interesting about this, which is that actually quite frequently, I don't remember the exact data, but something like 1 in 250 pregnancies end up in holoprosencephaly, which is the
Okay.
front forebrain not dividing. But because most of these pregnancies do not like
They're not viable.
they're not viable, so such fetuses are not born.
Okay.
The actual incidence of this disease in live
Births.
in live humans and live children is very, very less, like 1 in 10,000.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the next mythological character, which is the Cursed Knight by Ondine, which is also known as Ondine's Curse. It's more frequently known as Ondine's Curse. It has a more technical name, which is congenital central hypoventilation syndrome.
Yes.
Tell us, Shreya, what is it?
Right. So why don't we start with the story?
Yeah, we
first?
should tell them this.
Actually, yes.
There's a story. So there's a nymph who cursed her unfaithful husband,
Yeah.
and the curse was something along the lines of you cannot breathe when you're asleep.
Right.
Essentially, he would not be able to breathe unless he voluntarily.
Right. Unless he's actively putting
Yes.
effort into it. And of course, usually breathing is automatic, right? We don't really think about it.
Yeah.
But for these patients, that autonomic signal fails. It falters. And especially during sleep, of course, when we have no conscious
Yeah.
action.
That's
that
when
we are
it
doing.
actually becomes problematic, because now you're not in a state where you can voluntarily ensure that you breathe.
Yeah.
So such patients immediately die, because like as soon as they fall asleep, they lose control of they lose voluntary control over their breathing, and unfortunately they don't make it.
Right. Coming to vampires, I know we have previously gone in depth into it in just one of our previous episodes, but why don't we give a quick little well-deserved
Brush through about these beautiful creatures.
yes.
So vampires are essentially blood-sucking organisms, like we explained in the other more detailed video, and they dwell in dark settings. They don't come out in the light. They have fangs. They depend on blood of other organisms for survival, and they're immortal.
Yeah.
So essentially, the fact that they drink blood is coming from a place of maybe transiently ensuring that their physiological functions operate normally,
Right.
since they don't have blood themselves. So they rely on external blood to ensure that their physiological needs are met.
Right. Which makes sense. Of course, physiologically, if you consume blood directly, your heme is going to immediately get destroyed in the stomach. But we have the medieval theory of, oh, your body is craving for what it lacks.
Yeah.
Which is what propels this motion forward. Along with that, we also have porphyria.
So vampires are the best mythical creatures, or porphyria is actually the best disease to diagnose vampires with, because porphyria is manifested. One of the most important manifestations is photophobia, or like sensitivity to light and intolerance to it, and cutaneous manifestations, blisters, just basically adverse reactions of
On
your skin on
exposure to
exposure
light.
to light. And this happens because of the buildup of some of the metabolites in your heme synthesis, in your defective heme synthesis pathway,
Right.
that lead to such manifestations.
And interestingly, exposure to garlic also
exasperates
yes,
this
this
defect.
which
For the-
also ties into the folklore, which tells us that vampires are deathly allergic and intolerant to garlic, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's it.
Come, yeah, that could be it. But we also have a little Giants and Titans bit.
Yeah. No, I meant that was it for vampires.
My bad.
Okay, talking about giants and titans, I think this is a very obvious one. It's an easy one. What is the most appropriate diagnosis or like clinical condition that giants and titans have?
I mean, if
How
the name
about-
was any indication.
How about gigantism?
Gigantism,
Another-
acromegaly.
Acromegaly is characteristically there's an increase in growth hormone production at a very odd stage, but this can be explained by maybe a pituitary tumor. Pituitary is
Right.
the gland that produces growth hormone. So if there is a tumor that is producing excess growth hormones at a stage where your epiphyses have closed and your bones are no longer growing in their length, then it makes sense for a manifestation of
Yeah,
the
it does,
kind
it
of
does.
like manifestations like we see in acromegaly to take place.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good, well rounded understanding and a little tour of the
Clinical
world of
mythology.
Yes. Yeah,
Mythology.
mythology. We both feel like pretty passionately about this, I think, because
We all had that stage, right? Where we were obsessed with Percy Jackson.
yes.
So
Percy
yeah,
Jackson
it was
and
a
all the
bit of
likes.
nostalgia.
Very big
Going back to that
nostalgia.
chapter of like that stage of like 7th grade, maybe.
Yeah, I hope it was that same way for all of you, though.
Yeah,
Because I know in 7th grade, I would love to understand it to this extent.
and maybe
Yeah.
feel this way about these characters that I think are so important to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope you guys liked it as well.
Thank you for listening. Catch you in the next one.
Bye.